Jerry White, perspective. Deere declares all options on the table after workers defeat second UAW-backed contract. Again, we stand with the workers for John Deere to still get better pay, better working conditions, vacation pay. They're being forced again. You'll read here exactly why they're rejecting this offer. 10,000 Deere workers in the U.S. resisted a campaign of lies and intimidation by the UAW and voted to reject a slightly modified version by a margin of 55-45. An executive said that this is their best and final offer. We're not going back to the bargaining table. There is nothing else to bargain about. Now, this article had a couple of things in it that were so angering. So, Deere has a global strategy. Workers must also have a global strategy. Mobilize the collective strength of the working class in the U.S. and internationally. Okay, it's based on 4 decades in which cost-cutting measures went unchallenged as it relied on the UAW to suppress the resistance of the working class. Deere and the entire ruling class, moreover, see the strike as not just a challenge from one set of workers. Any retreat they fear will send a signal to other workers and encourage the growing strike movement that's already underway. So, John Deere, which counts on its corporate board current and former executives at Royal Dutch Shell, Boeing, Cargill, DuPont, Verizon, and the investment firm that handles the personal fortunes of Bill and Melinda Gates, they speak for the ruling class. Yes, they do. In a tweet earlier this week, Larry Summers, who we know very well, who engineered the halving of newly hired workers' wages during the Obama-Biden administration, restructuring the auto industry, right? Yep. Denounced the restoration of COLA adjustments. I mean, cost of living adjustments, they don't give them raises and they don't give them cost of living adjustments, and what you end up with is a $7.25 minimum wage for 14 years like we have right now. That's their plan. Right. It wasn't Henry Ford's plan, I can tell you right now. Henry Ford's plan was pay them enough to be able to buy your vehicles and put enough food on the table to continue to work and live and support your organization. That's how it's supposed to be.
Yep. Inspiring, like, dude. It's so weird having the unions be.
Well, it's not the unions, it's the union leadership. The unions themselves are full of members that actually do want things and are willing to make the sacrifices and do the right, they work hard, they pay their dues, and they count on leadership to actually look out for their best interests. And what happens more often than not in some of these organizations is leaders are full-time paid employees that make well into the 6 figures and sometimes into the 7 figures. And they become buddy-buddy with the executives because in order to be able to negotiate with them, they tend to, it becomes a lot smoother to negotiate when you're buddy-buddy with them. The problem is that the people that they're supposed to be buddy-buddy with, they're ignoring and screwing over at the same time.
Yep. Makes perfect sense.
So Deere workers are on guard against sabotage by the UAW. They formed a rank and file committee to unite workers across the operations, including internationally, and have demanded strike benefits to fully compensate for their lost income, the ending of backroom negotiations, and the expansion of the strike. And of course, there's going to be a lot of pushback and pressure that's even from the workers themselves that are part of the UAW against these rank and file committees, because they did not necessarily pay into the rank and file committees the way that they have to the UAW. But if the UAW is not actually fighting for your best interest, why would you continue to listen to what they say over a rank and file committee of actual employees that are on the floor doing the work?
Yeah.
That to me makes little sense. So on picket lines, workers are denouncing corporations for cynically heaping praise. Okay, again, here, heroes are hypocrites, said one sign carried by heroes over hypocrites, not are hypocrites, they're over hypocrites. Sorry, I misspoke there. Didn't read that correctly. Again, from the Cabell Huntington Hospital in West Virginia that we just actually talked about. So right now, here are some of the numbers. And this was, again, published earlier this week. You had 800 teachers in Scranton who walked out Wednesday, 450 metal workers, 1,000 hospital workers, plus those other 50 employees that we saw in the article. 1,000 coal miners at Warrior Met. They've been out for like over 7 months now. Nearly 6,000 graduate students at Columbia. 1,900 nurses in Buffalo. I think they may have just ended theirs. 1,400 Kellogg's workers across the country. 30,000 Kaiser Permanente workers are scheduled to go on strike. Again, look at this. This is something. And that's not even all of them. That's not even all of them. Those are just some of the big ones. Again, he didn't even talk about the Maryland bus drivers there. Or the ones, how they're replacing the National Guard. The bus driver shortage that we talked about in Massachusetts, where they were calling in the National Guard to drive buses.
Yeah.
Workers in the U.S. around the world are not just fighting individual employers, but the entire capitalist system. This means the growing strike movement of the working class must be fused with a socialist program aimed at transforming giant corporations like Deere into public utilities and restructuring global economic life on the basis of a scientific and democratic plan to meet human needs and not corporate profit. Yeah, I live in fantasy land too. It sounds great, Jerry. Zero lies detected, but you're fighting a world that is going to heavily resist that, I think, clearly. But I'll fight with you. I got your back. I'm right there. I can't argue with anything you're saying here. I still disagree with your strategy, Jerry White, about how you're going to organize and that we're going back to the early January conversation with Jimmy Dore, but this is a good article. This is a good article, and I'll give credit where it's due.
Well, you better get hip to Indie Left. Indie Left. indieleft.news.